What is going on, everyone? It is James, aka the Comic Raider, and we are back. Saga Volume 3 review, and let's just get right into it. Right off the bat, again, this is not meant for children. There will be some gore in here. There's gonna be some sex in here, some violence, some profanity, all that. Don't do it. Okay, with that out the way, let's go ahead and discuss Volume 3 for Saga September. Volume 3 is going to collect 13 through 18. We left off with the gang being going to Quietus, meeting the writer, and then Prince Robot attacking him, and then them all being hiding out under the house. So, we're going to start off here with a guy being interviewed. He's like a, I don't remember. He's in the, we'll call it the army, and they were after Alana, and he is explaining that, they were after Alana, and then they discovered that she's with Marco, and that they had a baby, and then he tried to tell his bosses that, like, they have a baby together. They didn't want to hear it. They thought he was crazy. And, yeah, but anyway, who is he interviewing? Well, he's being interviewed by some reporters. These guys are the press. They're going around. They're trying to do a story on this. Now we pick up on the ship. You've got Alana and Marco. Marco is still, it has been weeks at this point since his grandfather died. He is still extremely depressed. But they are on their way to Quietus, so that's where we leave off with them. We also have Prince Robot the Fourth is also on his way to Quietus as well. And then we have the Will, and she's still Slave Girl at this point, and Gwendolyn and Lion Cat are all still together. He is very upset. He is pretty much at this point wanting to quit. Gwendolyn is like, dude, you can't quit, what the hell? They land on Quietus. They discover that they land on like this, where a battle, it's like an old battleground, or battlefield, ancient battlefield. There are bone bugs who can kind of reanimate bones, so that's what's going on there. And then they have to fight off a reanimated bone monster because of these bone bugs. But they're able to do that just great, and they meet the author, who leaves a hell of a first impression, they said. The Will is still reminiscing over the stock, and then, what do you know, there is the stock right there. What in the world, what is going on? Oh wait, that is a figment of his imagination. He's tripping. Gwendolyn says, who the hell are you yelling at? And then he says, stop calling her Slave Girl, we're calling her Sophie. So, she has a name now. The little girl is now Sophie. And then we are going to, whoa, who is this? She says, is this about Alana? Is she dead? She looks like she has wings. Could she be related? Maybe she is. It is her mother. Well, technically her stepmother. She is the same dang age as Alana, which upset Alana. She said that, yeah, she basically was like, hey, it's not like that. I didn't even meet her father until after I was out of high school, long after her parents had separated. But they are basically the same age, and Alana just hated that, and then she left. But as you can see, I mentioned earlier that, Wreath is Landfall is very, like, Earth-like. They just have a regular home right there, all that good stuff. But anyways, they're interviewing her, trying to figure out more about Alana. And then they tell her that, do you think that she may be running away with someone? And she's like, you're crazy. She would never be a turncoat. Fast forward to them talking to the author. And I'm saying the author because I just cannot remember his name right now. But they're talking to the author on Quietus, and he's like, oh, you read the book. That's crazy. And then they hand him the baby, and then he ends up throwing up on her because he is such a drunk right now. My hand is all in the way of that image right there, bottom corner. Throws up on the baby. That's insane. But anyways, yeah. And then he invites them over to his house. In the meantime, the Will is teaching Gwendolyn how to use the Lance. And then and then we got Sophie. Here is his still losing his mind, thinking about the stock a lot, and she's telling him to, hit on Gwendolyn. He decides to move forward with Gwendolyn after being pressured by his figment of his imagination, and she punches him and says, "Don't ever touch me without asking again." And then the stock's like, she said without asking, meaning she would let you touch her if you asked. Fast forward, and we are back on Quietus now. Everyone's just kind of getting to know each other, and then they start talking about battles and kind of going over their history. And he's explaining like one of his ex-wives and how she was killed on a battle in Cartwright, which is where Marco's mother was at one time. And anyways, blah blah blah. He then tells her like, "Hey, I can tell that you recently are widowed. It sucks. It doesn't get better. It really freaking sucks." So they kind of bond over that. Great moment here with Lion Cat and Sophie. Sophie's trying to talk to herself, and she's like, "I want to be a dancer when I get older, blah blah blah." And then she says, "I am all dirty on the inside because I did bad things with," and then Lion Cat says, "Lying." Telling her like, "No, you're not dirty on the inside. You're okay. You were forced to do awful things." A guy calls the will, says, "Hey man, you put out a APB for us, and I'm letting you know that there's a guy here who is flying the Stock's ship, and he says that he is trying to go to a place called Quietus." So that tells the will where the ship is and where the guy who killed his lover is. We have a really cool moment here with a dragon and one of the robots. And now we have, I'm forgetting her name, but the reporters are now here on this planet. They're now questioning this robot. She was, you were her first commanding officer, and then the officer's telling her that she was a worthless, see you next Tuesday. And then basically just tells a story of like one of them, Alana, hesitated to drop a bomb on people at one point, but then they end up taking fire. Someone does not want them telling this story, so they take a shot at them. So then the robot calls for complete destruction of the building where that shot just came from. Let's fast forward to this moment. Isabel is like, "Hey, Marco's downstairs," and he's laughing. He's having a good time for the first time in forever because they're playing a cool little board game, and then they discuss this board game, blah blah blah. Let's fast forward to, this is another cool moment. These guys are fixing the Will's ship, or ship. They're fixing his ship. There's this, the fox tells him in the middle panel there, he's like, how did you get her all tore up like that anyways? And the Will says, "Because I forgot to mind my own damn business." And the guy goes, "Damn son, I was just trying to make conversation." I did love that part. Let's fast forward, and now he's like, "Look, the ship is fixed." And then she's like, "Look, I know you." She's telling the Will like, "I know you want to give up, blah blah blah." He's like, No. We're gonna finish what we started now." And so so then he's like, "All right, we're good." He's like, "Oh, where's Sophie?" And she goes, "Don't worry, I'll go find her." And then more arguments with Alana and the author and her mother-in-law over trying to figure out what they're gonna do. What's the move going forward? We can't just live here for forever. Meanwhile, Sophie ran away, but now she's having a vision of her mother. Now she's seeing things. That's crazy, because so was the Will. Maybe something's going on there. You have I am not going to read this, but you have a very interesting dynamic here, where Alana is trying to, let's see, Marco says, "Something tells me you're once again using adult stuff to avoid discussing an uncomfortable subject." And it's, this is an example of, it's a very adult story here, but they're going through some shit. And anyways, there's another moment here where they kind of They do have a deep discussion figuring out what are they going to do. What can they do actually to survive for the rest of their lives. And then he's like, look, we're together. We're going to figure out a way. Meanwhile, you have the author and Marco's mother. He's like, they're right. Like, they do have to figure out what they're going to do moving forward. And then at one point, she's like, what are they doing now? Is Alana praying? Is she praying? And he's like, no. No, she most certainly is not. That's the line here. But anyway, so let's move forward now. We have a moment where the Will is chilling. And then, oh my god, Sophie comes up and stabs him in the neck. She appears to be, something's wrong there. What is happening? Why does she have all that stuff over her mouth? Why is she stabbing him? What is happening here? And then you got this, the stock says, now stand on the bad man's neck until he stops moving. What is happening? Anyways, then we have some moments here where now they're continuing their interview. This time they're interviewing a gentleman who is a secret intelligence officer. He's telling them that no, Alana is a spy. She's the best undercover spy we ever had. Blah, blah, blah. Of course, there's nothing going on here. They have a back and forth, and then you realize that he was kind of just telling them that to get rid of him. Now he calls for them to be assassinated. I need you to go and kill them. And then he's like, look, like all the best people are out. I do have a, in case of emergency, person that I can use called the Brand. Anyways, let's fast forward. More stuff with the gang and talking to the author and kind of going over. They're discussing like watching TV through VR headsets, basically. That's going to come into play later. And Gwendolyn is still looking for Sophie. And then they're like, what the heck? She goes to eat an apple. And then all of a sudden, she has a vision of someone that's nude. And she's like, that's the person that took my V card from me. How are they still standing before me? And then she spits out the apple. I was going to show it. No, but she spits out the apple because she realizes it's the food. The food is doing something to us. Here is your VR headset. And this is kind of giving Marco and Alana the idea that, what if we become actors? Actors put on a mask. They're not really, you can't really see their face. It would give us a job, basically. She says that she always wanted to do that. And he's like, well, then let's do it. So maybe they have a plan moving forward. She's going to become an actor. Meanwhile, you have Gwendolyn and Lion Cat find the girl in the process of trying to kill the Will. And then she stops the girl and she's like, she's been poisoned. We have to go. We got to get out of here. My ex-boyfriend knows a spell that can heal the Will. Well, that means Marco. So now they're going to go find him. Let's move forward. The author and Marco's mother continue to kind of build their friendship, if you will. Maybe they have feelings for each other. Not maybe, they definitely already do. Anyways, now at this point, we're kind of caught back up. Now Prince Robot has arrived on the planet. But also, so has Gwendolyn and Lion Cat and the Will and Sophie. Fast forward, we now have the interviewers, and they are like, uh-oh, we just been poisoned by something. What is that? And we have another freelancer in here. Her name is this where she announces it? No, not really. But anyway, she tells them, my name is The Brand. I am here to shut you guys up by any means necessary. She doesn't kill them. She basically places a spell on them that allows them to, they cannot talk about Alana and the company outside of the room or you will both die. And then fast forward to everyone hiding under the house. And they're like, what are we going to do? Prince isn't leaving. Oh my god, he just shot him. So now everyone's kind of like, okay, there's some stuff going on here. The girl has kind of recovered from her poisoning. She's apologizing to the Will. The Will passes out. Is he dead? We don't know yet. Anyways, we also have just a lot of back and forth here. Good conversation between Prince Robot and the author about death and what is death like in those final moments. And then you have Marco's mother comes to the rescue because, again, she just shot, what might be her new man. How dare you shoot someone that I care about? Gun battle ensues. Gwendolyn now rushes in because she hears all the gunfire. busts through the door, sees someone, equips the lance, boom. Author through the head with the lance, donezo. Then her and Lion Cat get into it with Marco's mom, and then she's like, oh my god, what is happening? At this point, Prince Robot, it says restarting. This may take a few minutes. I love that. Again, relating to the whole like computer and all that kind of stuff. Number 18, we have got Lion Cat. Gwendolyn says, Lion Cat, watch her. If she makes a move, kill her. Her and Lion Cat are going back and forth. Then you have Isabel comes in. Isabel says, you need to leave. You have no right to be here, Lion Cat. You're a Lion Cat. Lion Cats always have to play by the rules. It's what they're supposed to do. But not today. You had no right to execute this civilian in his home. True or false? And Lion King is like, okay, you're right. He's doing things that he's not supposed to do because his best friend, the Will, is in danger. And she's like, look, get the hell out of here. Get out of here. And Lion Cat decides to run away. Calls him a useless runt of the litter. But then you saw Prince Robot behind her. Meanwhile, here we have the first face-to-face of Gwendolyn and Marco and Alana and a bunch of the three of them kind of arguing back and forth and back and forth. And she's like, look, you need to heal him. And he's like, look, we don't have what we would need to heal him. And they're arguing. Meanwhile, Isabel, I keep doing that. Isabel has to encounter Prince Robot. But he's still rebooting, so she tells him, your job is to get her out of here. So he takes her out of there, but then he starts to kind of come back to his senses. So she's like, look, just get out of here, just return to your ship. Meanwhile, Alana is about to be stabbed with the lance from Gwendolyn, so he pushes his own woman and baby off the lighthouse. What in the world did he just do that for? And Gwendolyn is like, and he's like, look, I'm sorry that I broke your heart. Or she says, you broke my freaking heart. And then, bam, she's like, don't worry, you'll live. Previously, Alana said that her wings don't really work. And he told her, my wife can do anything. Anything. So he trusted that if push came to shove, literally, she would be able to do it because she can do anything. So that's how they were able to escape Quietus. She said, Hazel narrates and says, yeah, thanks to my parents, we were able to escape Quietus that night, but not with our hero, D. Oswald Heist. That was the author's name. Meanwhile, the interviewers, they get an option of a possible new story that's kind of a way to work around the fact that they have that spell put on them. Meanwhile, the Brand goes to visit Will in the hospital. Why is she visiting? It's his sister. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, so anyways, she's going to visit her brother. So now, maybe the two of them are going to work together. Let's find out what happens. Meanwhile, Gwendolyn is just kind of checking up on him, making sure that everything's okay. And Hazel says, it would be a very long time before we saw any of our original pursuers again. At least it seemed kind of long. So that tells you, and then it kind of skips forward a little bit. Look at her, she's walking. So yeah, so that kind of lets you know that, hey, like, this is it. We might have some new characters being introduced in a new part of the story starting in number 4. They also include some convention sketches, it says. I think that was really cool that they did that here. But anyways, that is going to do it for trade number 3 as the story continues. Where are we going to go with number 4? Are they going to become the actors? Are they going to go do something? If they don't see that original group that's hunting them, then who is hunting them? Who are they going to see moving forward? We don't know. We got to find out. But anyways, stay tuned for the next Saga September. Again, appreciate you all for tuning in. I am out, baby. Comic Raider. Deuces.